Hi, my name is Rachel Boyd, and these are my responses to the questions chapters 5 and 6 from our leadership and education class. So, the first question asked, based on the table in the book, what are my top 3 tips for dealing with change and why? So, my first tip that is one of my tops is to learn from other experiences. You have had change before. I really like this tip because it really does put things in perspective. Sometimes in the middle or the beginning of change, the end result or like the benefits almost seem impossible. Um, and you kind of like can't see, you don't have the end in sight. And so thinking about the times in the past that you have had change and it seemed hard, but then it's now been for the better or you survived, it kind of helps you realize, okay, you can do this. There's probably good things at the end. This also ties in with my second tip, which is know that if others can do something, then so can you. I feel like that's important. Sometimes we have that mentality of like, this is impossible. I can't do this. But knowing the fact, especially if you know someone who's been through this change and has survived or thrived on it, then it's very possible that that can be the same result for you. So it gives you a perspective shift and letting you know that like other people out here have doing that and they are able to do this. So why can't you? And then my third top tip is to realize that others can help you. You are not alone. I think this tip is very beneficial, especially in the school system. A lot of times when we go through changes in the school, the entire staff is going through that change. So relying on your coworkers and other people and knowing that you are not struggling in this on your own. There are other people with you. You can support one another, encourage one another. And I think that's just a really good mentality to have. Each of those tips, just having that right mindset, putting a good perspective onto something. Question 2 asked me to identify one of the types of parental involvement and kind of share a success story with that. This happened recently for me, and the type of parental involvement I thought it tied with was type 2 communicating, especially in the cultural perspective. So, I have a student who struggles with reading and writing primarily because he comes from a Spanish speaking home. So his mom is Spanish speaking. And so it's very hard to communicate and for her to understand what he's learning, what he struggles with. And so I, took the initiative to really, I could have easily kind of just brushed her aside and been like, it's not worth a conference. She can't understand me. It's just too complicated. But I took time to reach out to her several times, expressing I wanted to conference with her and that we would make sure we have some sort of way that we would have some translator available. We had to try different dates. I always checked on things that would work for her. And luckily, our communication app through our school allows it to translate. So she was able to reply and I was able to reply back. We came in for a conference. We unfortunately tried and could not get an in-person translator, but we had a online translator on the phone, which actually worked out great. It was just a really cool experience to see, even with the boundaries of language kind of being a barrier. At first, we were able to use the translator and just connect and work together as, how can we support your son? You could tell she kept saying, and the translator would let us know she's very appreciative of the fact that we took time to reach out to her, to allow her to have that voice and to ask the questions she needed to ask. She asked for resources. We were able to provide her resources that she can use at home to support her child and even just to help herself understand better of what he is learning. And so that just was very good. It built some rapport. We recently had another event at school where parents could attend, and she ended up coming outside of her comfort zone and doing that. And I just think, building that relationship and showing her that, we can communicate and we are all on the same team, and using that involvement through communication was really cool. Question 3 for chapter 6 said to share an example of a meeting where a direct leadership style was implemented. and pros and cons, benefits and disadvantages. So I thought of a meeting where we had to plan a behavior celebration at our school. It was very close to the time the celebration was happening. So the person who was in charge kind of just led the meeting, was just like, we were kind of just there for the most part. They shared their plan, but it was more so, this is what we are going to do. We didn't really have any time to brainstorm or communicate or express ideas. That would probably be a disadvantage. If someone had an idea to make it better or some parts that maybe wouldn't have worked out as well, we didn't have an opportunity to express that. But I would say some advantages for the timeline of when this meeting took place and when the celebration needed to happen. This style kind of worked out to where time was spent efficiently. We, weren't sitting there trying to brainstorm and not come up with anything. We already had a plan in place. The leader who was kind of using this direct leadership was more kind of like delegating, like, once this happens, okay, you are going to be in charge of this, you're going to be in charge of this. So I feel like it was appropriate for the type of meeting that it was. We didn't get off topic. We were very focused. And so everybody felt that our time was used wisely for this meeting. And then question 4 asked us to share an experience of a meeting where your coworkers used a facilitative style. So this is another time where we were planning for an event at our school. Some club members were doing a program for a Veterans Day program. We would have kids speaking, different events happening. And so this was kind of like the beginning stage of the plan. So it was more, the leader of this meeting kind of was just facilitating it. They didn't have any specific ideas in mind. They had like a general idea of how it would run, but a lot of it they were just kind of expressing, this is what we want to talk about, what ideas do you have? So I think some pros of that is, it really, all of the group members felt that they had a part to play. They felt heard. They felt like everyone contributed. They shared thoughts and ideas. They bounced ideas off of one another. I would say a con sometimes, especially depending on the facilitator, it could kind of get off topic a little bit. Or sometimes it didn't feel like there was enough momentum. Like, we at times might not have felt like we were getting very much done during the meeting. But when the facilitator just redirected us and kind of reminded us of the goal, then it kind of brought everything back together. But I do feel like different leadership styles, depending on the meetings and the purpose of the meeting, they can change. And I think they both have their benefits and their downsides. But those are my thoughts. Thank you very much.